Welcome, everyone, to Preparing Clinical Research Sites for FDA Inspections. I'm Gary Freeman, and I have over 30 years' experience being involved in the clinical research area, working for pharmaceutical companies, device companies, CRO companies, including presenting many workshops with and for FDA inspectors. So I know a bunch of these folks. I've worked around them. I've trained some of them over the years, and still get involved in FDA inspections with sites and with sponsors at their companies when they have either had an inspection or had been asked to respond to an inspection. Today we're going to be discussing the FDA inspections of sites and how to best prepare the sites for those inspections. Of course, we really never know when that may happen. Within the drug industry or the device industry, there are around 300 to 400 site inspections each year, each fiscal year. They do have some logic to how they choose those sites. Most of them are the high enrolling centers, of course, on a routine or regular random basis that will affect the bottom line for an NDA or a PMA for devices. Others are triggered by the scientific division when they're reviewing the documentation. If they have questions regarding the activity at a site, if they think there might be some fraudulent activity going on, if they're not sure they can trust the data, if there have been any reports of impropriety from any employees or any other avenues that might get reported through the FDA channel, they have the ability to send out the inspectors targeted to particular sites or particular sponsors. Some of these inspections will be while the study is going on. Some of them will be at the end of a study when they're actually tabulating the results to determine if the sponsor has proven safety and effectiveness. We just never really know. Investigators are given a little more time than sponsors because the FDA is aware that the investigators may have other responsibilities, other patient loads going on, and so they will very often be willing to change their time frame a slight bit. If they ask for a particular date, they may move it a week or two out. Not very long, but they will give them a little more flexibility. Keeping in mind that there have been a lot of guidance documents since 2009 regarding investigator responsibilities, I would advise you to go to the website www.fda.gov for guidance documents. We're going to have some of those today as well. And in the bottom line to most of those since 2009 has been that much of the work that used to be done as a team effort is now the responsibility of the investigator. And the facilitation of those activities is primarily being done by the monitoring staff. Not the work itself, but rather facilitating corrective action, preventive action types of duties. And there's a lot of good guidance in those guidance documents regarding that to get you prepared for what the FDA would expect that you as an investigator are doing, along with the help and guidance from sponsors or CRO monitors. But the onus is much more from a site perspective on the investigator themselves. So we'll be talking to that throughout today as well. There are a number of reference materials in your handouts. We'll flash those up for you today. We're not going to go through those in great depth. Those are for reference for you and your groups after class. As any FDA seminar would be, I need to point out a couple of disclaimers here. The first is that the content of the seminar provides information regarding the FDA investigator inspections that is all publicly available. The second is that the content of the presentation is not intended to provide any specific legal advice. And the third one is that participants should consult their legal counsel for guidance to particular factual situations. Having said that, our learning objectives then are fivefold. The first is to recognize what it means to be inspected. How can we get prepared? If we don't know what to expect, it's very difficult. What are those regulations then? That's the Code of Federal Regulations for the FDA. It's also ICH guidelines, International Conference on Harmonization. The ICH comes into play here because most of the sponsors are putting into the protocol the statement that they will be following ICH guidelines. ICH is the law in Europe and in Japan. The Code of Federal Regulations is the law in the United States. They are very much similar. However, the FDA, when they do their inspection, will only speak to the Code of Federal Regulations. They must be able to tie any infractions to some place in the regulations, Title 21, FDA, Code of Federal Regulations, either the 312 for drugs or the 812 for devices. And we'll talk about the focus of the FDA inspections, where they seem to be going, where they've been, what they're looking for, so that we can be better prepared. We'll look at the dynamics of being ready all the time. We've always wanted that to be the case. However, in the current administration, we've proven that more times the FDA is contacting the site during the study itself, not necessarily waiting for the application for marketing to be presented.